Wow, I really like that green.
Don't you? I love it. So again, there's nothing like paint that can make you feel different.
Yep.
So a week ago, this was pink, and I really had an issue with the pink. So we're jazzing it up a little bit. We're trying to modernize this space a bit, and also connect the idea that the Learning Commons, as it's been renamed, serves more than just your typical library. And the functions of what goes on here are varied depending upon the student's need. So teacher spaces, collaborative spaces, teachers working with students, students working with students. And you'll note that we've taken a lot out, and we focused on a lot of technology to be brought in as information.
This too was an addition that was built into a courtyard from the original, well, second phase of the original building design. So there were two courtyards in between hallways that had window access on both sides. So clearly we've taken a good chunk of this portion.
No, in fact, I mean, there, as far as the stacks goes, you know, they are there. But again, what are kids going to use? We've increased our nonfiction and our fiction sections, trying to promote literacy and reading. But as far as ways that students research, we really are trying to have our library media specialist help them understand how to use the internet more effectively and more productively,
Plus
and
the
how to
library's
judge a
across-
source.
The library's across the street.
You
too.
can
Right.
find anything
Yep.
on Wikipedia,
Yeah.
you know, in a minute.
And when do you
Why-
use Wikipedia and when do you not?
Yeah.
I think helping students make those decisions, so.
And how not to plagiarize in the process.
Correct, and that's a big challenge for us. This area back here is one of our library computer, or our computer lab. At most, I mean, we've got students in this lab pretty much every day, and teachers wanting the space more and more. Yeah, there are 24 computers in here, and if I could duplicate this space probably 2 more times so that all teachers could use it on a regular basis, to have the flexibility to determine when students are going to work together, when students are going to use the computer, and then to have that teaching space. I see the real benefit of it in terms of engagement, and then the ability for students to really demonstrate their learning in various ways with products that really are very thoughtful and creative. So.
Well, with Khan Academy and Rosetta Stone,
Yep.
and there are a lot of ways that you could
Yep.
improve the process, reduce the amount of teacher intervention, you know,
Right.
and do more with the computer.
We use Khan Academy
Do you?
now in conjunction with a program called Study Island, and so a lot of students are using that as far as reinforcement, and the concept of the flipped classroom is starting to kind of.
But at some point, that may flip where it
interesting.
becomes more primary,
Mm.
and the process of education could be revolutionized.
Right.
What's the average class size?
Primarily, looking at the core classes, we're talking about probably 18.
Okay.
Definitely
Some of the
Debona would-
safety concerns as far as our tech classes, 16, given the
Right.
fact that the ratio between the instructor and some of the areas that they're using, there's safety codes involved. And then some of our other electives are, you know, closer up to that 2022 mark.
Okay.
One of the difficulties in a high school of this size is offering enough of a variety of coursework, particularly for juniors and seniors and electives. The reach classes, if you will, or higher expectation classes, and core classes, and, you know, in some cases, the support courses. So you have a real fluctuation in being able to, with a consolidated staff. And here, we've, over the course of the last 3 years, we've reduced staff considerably as our population has both declined, but we're also in a position where trying to, you know, if you will, be all things to more kids is very difficult when we're at this size. So we do have while the average class is, you know, 18 to 22, we certainly have some classes that are in the 10 to 12, 8 to 12.
Be Mandarin or something would be a smaller class probably.
Right, but not all of our Mandarin classes. I mean, some, our Chinese 1 and 2, the ones
17
and 2
and 18.
are at a decent size. 3 is a little
Lower.
smaller. But, French 4 and 5 are small as well, by contrast, as is Spanish, when you get to those 4. But actually, our calc classes are fairly good size, actually on the large size. And some of our sciences are on the larger size.
What'd be the largest class that you'd have?
I believe our largest class is 29.
29, I was going to say 28.
And what is that?
It is a math class, a higher level math class.
Is that one of the pre-calc classes? Yeah.
I'll take you to one of the science classrooms so you can see a lab.
Okay.
That was one of the deficiencies about the number of plugs or something in the walls.
Right, in
Yeah,
fact, we
but
just
this looks
installed.
this looks pretty good here. Was this?
Well, this
There-
was designed as a lab. When they did this space, they ran all this.
But was this done since that in any?
No, in fact, what they were referring to was this space out here when the computer on wheels, and if battery power was a concern, that students were looking for ways that they could use the computer, use the laptop, and the battery power had gone dead, and they couldn't find any kind of extension and outlet to use. So,
Find that in airports.
I know.
But they're all upgrading.
That's true.
Charging stations.
Was renovated in the 1990s, and so with the exception of one science lab, all of the other science rooms were renovated. And so this room in particular demonstrates, I think, poor planning, given the lack of space that you can use for instructional space versus lab space. And it's very difficult. We've tried various ways to accommodate the sense of space to promote, teacher to student interaction, but there's just no easy way to do that here.
So how would you rearrange this? What would you do?
Well, we've looked at different furniture, to try and not have, if we get 22 bodies in here, and then you want to be able to engage and move around, it's really hard for the teacher to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Change up the way in which the classroom is situated is very difficult because of the tight space. So we thought about ways that we could, look at things, but it's pretty locked down for everything. And then board space was a concern. We finally got her a new board where she was able to use, and she's one of our new teachers, so she's got an LCD projector, but plus she's got an interactive, it's called a Mimeo bar, and it makes this whiteboard actually interactive as a smart board. So that's been helpful. But it's still, and in comparison to the lab that's right next door, which is much larger. So while that space is great, this space is unfortunate, so it's not even. They're not like mirror attributes of one another. So, one of our limitations. And everything's really spread out.
Yeah.
So, just a tremendous amount of wasted space,
Yeah.
which is very frustrating.
What are the costs to keep this school? I'm just curious, do you have any idea?
That's for the big guy to answer. I don't
Right, all that goes on district-wide. They don't seem to break it out, and I don't know
But
whether.
I'd say we're the
This
most
has to be the
inefficient.
biggest cost.
Well, and on average too, the ways in which we could make this more efficient, in terms of clean energy, but also maximizing, keeping the heat in and then cooling the
Yeah.
building. How do you go about doing that? To air condition this, we talked about air conditioning the auditorium, which at some point, if that was to be, that would definitely be a project that's on here. We can't hold functions, we can't hold our convocation in August here. We use the town hall because of the fact that it's too hot and we can't fit the entire district in there.
Everybody
I was
uses at
asking-
least 5 pounds.
Do you know what it costs to heat this school?
We have numbers, but I can't tell you off the top of my head. That one doesn't
You wanna
rattle
go
around off the
downstairs
top
and
of my
see?
head.
I've seen
Whatever's
the
next on,
culinary.
whatever, yes.